Hi guys, so I wanted to share with you another activation code that has come through. This one is quite a big one and it has completely changed the way I view healing. As a healer, it's a big statement, so bear with me. I'm going to try and explain this to the best of my ability. So what tends to happen unconsciously when we approach healing work, which on a side note is the integral building and the integral foundation of building your legacy. It is the path of evolution and of expansion and of stepping into the higher and higher versions of yourself that you are here to experience in this lifetime. So what I've noticed, and I noticed this through personal experience, I am lucky enough to have an incredible support network who helped me see this blind spot. What I had done is I'd unconsciously fallen into the pattern of fixing. My intention for my healing journey at this stage was fixing. Now, I share this because I know I'm not alone. This is such a common it's such a fine line that we walk between healing out of love and wanting to integrate all aspects of ourselves and healing from the need to fix to feel complete. It's like a tightrope, and either side you can very quickly jump in and out of. It's like an attention you always have to check in with. So what I recognize is actually when we fall into the space of fixing when it comes to healing, it's because there is a part of our history, something that has happened that we believe should not have happened to us. So for example, what are the narratives that we tend to bring into healing? Because we recognize that the self-sabotage, they're the stories that really stop us from allowing ourselves to expand into the highest version of ourselves. They're narratives around specific events. So there'll be main events that you think back to your childhood that often come up in this healing space. There'll be like 1, 2, 3 top, sometimes, 3 or 4 of your main kind of scenarios, but it's kind of the one big one. Let's talk about that one sacred wound. The source of our suffering is not the narrative. The source of our suffering is that there needed to be a narrative. Bear with me. When something difficult happens to us as a child, we don't have the capacity to understand why this is happening. And actually, this doesn't even apply to children. Adults can walk around with the same concept. Many of us do. When something happens to us that is difficult, we believe it shouldn't have happened to us. From that space, our ego steps in and gives us a why to make itself feel comfortable. The ego hates the unknown. It will do everything and anything to protect you from the unknown. So when this thing happened to you, your ego's response was to give it a narrative, to explain why this happened to you. This thing that shouldn't have happened to you, why it happened. So what tends to come out of that is the narrative of, I am unworthy, I am unloved, I am abandoned, I am not good enough, I am not worthy of abundance or having my desires and needs met. And those are the narratives we bring into healing. But it's not the source of the wound, if you really think about it. The source is, there's a part of me still rejecting that situation, that experience should not have happened to me. And it's my justification of why it happened to me that is actually keeping me attached to the trauma. That's the trauma bond. Because if you think about it, when we accept something as divine, as it's supposed to be, that's acceptance. What is acceptance? It's accepting, it's recognizing this thing is allowed to be there, or this experience is allowed to have happened. There is no need for an explanation. So what I have found, and what's really clicked in, is that it's really the rejection. It's the resistance towards the way our past has been, or the way that specific dynamics in our childhood played out, that is really the attachment that we still feel. Because it feels like, you know, with our sacred wounds, and there will be particular things that just come up over and over and over and over again. And you constantly think like, fuck, why have I not fixed this already? Why have I not fixed this? Why is this coming up again? Why is this coming up again? It's coming up again because you're still seeing it as something that shouldn't have happened. You're seeing it as the source to why you're not where you wanted to be, where you are not currently where you want to be, or why you are not the person you desire to be, because of this thing, because this thing that happened to me shouldn't have happened to me. It happened to me because of XYZ, and XYZ is a reason as to why I'm not where I want to be, or who I want to be. So it's a very roundabout way that your ego uses to keep itself in the known, in the familiar. But the other thing that does is it causes a betrayal wound. It causes like a trust fracture between you and life. Because from your ego's perspective, and now a neural pathway that's being imprinted, is that things that shouldn't happen to you in life happen to you. And because of that belief, you don't trust life. And if you don't trust life, you desire to control every inch. And if you need to control every inch, you also need to control other people. You need to control how, you need to micromanage every area of your life. You need to make sure that you're perfect. You need to control you. And all these other domino effects. So it causes this complete distrust with the way your life pans out. So when we can accept that everything that happened to me and has happened to me and what's happening to me now is divinely guided. There is this allowance of the truth that you are always supported. You're exactly where you need to be. You've experienced exactly what you needed to experience for the gifts that you were here to activate. There is nothing to fix. And if there's nothing that I'm trying to explain away as to why this thing happened to me, then the idea of the narrative, like I'm unworthy or I'm unlovable, falls away. Because it's got nothing to do with the being unworthy or unlovable. The only reason I believe I'm unworthy or unlovable is because I believe that thing shouldn't have happened to me. But what if I understand that that thing was meant to happen to me? And not only happen to me, it was meant to happen for me. There goes the trauma bond. There is no need to believe that I'm unworthy or unloved. That's not the reason as to why it happened. If you can get behind this, and if you can allow this activation code to penetrate and integrate, it will completely transform, as it's done for me, hence why I'm sharing this, of how safe and supported and loved you feel by life, and how whole and enough you are. And as someone who has always struggled with that one wound around not being enough, this is the most beautiful and most empowering integration and activation you could ever give yourself.